Hello people, it's your trusty chief engineer for planes again, and today is Friday, and I know my schedule says I'm going to upload my Let's Play, but it's kinda tough, and I haven't finished it yet. My computer has been busy rendering the last few hours, and is going to be busy rendering the next few hours after I do this. But yeah, today we're going to continue the tutorial. I'm going to this is the tutorial episode number 2, and yeah, this is going to go over how you build a rocket. And because it's so long after the last episode of the tutorial that I uploaded that we're going to add a little bonus. In the coming episode, the post commentary is already recorded and pre-rendered. I'm going to talk about that I have edited a few engine config files, as well as I have edited my scramjet ramjet engines and so on. And so I have decided I'm going to show you how to edit engine files. This is my Kerbal Space Program installed. I'm having the Let's Play in, so let's go ahead. As you see, I entered the game data directory. You have a lot of folders. If you want to edit a part, you have to know which mod or it belongs to, or if it is a stock part. And if it is a stock part, it's situated in the squad folder. Since it's a part, you find it under parts. And since it's a tutorial episode, I'm going to show you what editing is about. So we're going to open. Let me open a few engines, a few No, we're making it together. Next, now we're looking at. Let's not use the nuclear engine since I edited that already. Okay. So we opened the liquid fuel. So we opened the LVT-30 engine. Interesting. That's a config file. This is the title the part has, or rather the name under which Kerbal Space Program tries to find the engine. It's called liquid engine. That's the name the game engine searches for, or is in the part file, the craft file of the of your craft. And if two parts have the same name, for example, you have an edited liquid engine and a non-edited, it will always load the part first, which the game engine itself loaded first when it loaded the game. It's a part, and the author is No Vasilisco. Well, its asset parameters is it has the standard model MU, which is in the LVT's folder on the squad dingy. Here, let's go up. The model MU, that's here, so there's nothing to worry about. Its scale is 0.1. I never really quite found out what scale really means, so I don't care. I never changed that. The attach nodes, it has the top attach node and the bottom attach node, and then you have the FX definitions. What kind of exhaust FX you have, trails, lights and stuff, what it sounds like, it's a sound FX definition. And then you have the editor parameters, which was going to be displayed when you are in the editor. It costs 850. It's in the category propulsion, subcategory 0. That here doesn't really have a big meaning. And this is the title. This here. This is displayed by the game in the editor, how it's called. If I change anything around here, it's going to have a different name displayed in the editor. This is the manufacturer. You can play around, be funky here. In the description. These, at the moment, only this here really has, gravity. If you change, say, to control Command and Control, then it will be in a different tab. Okay. Attachment rules are important also, because they determine how it can be attached. This one here can be attached stack, and stack is allowed. It does not have surface attachment, it doesn't allow collision, and it doesn't surface attach. So if I wanted to have it surface attached, I would have to put a 1 instead of this 0 here. Oops, I marked all of them. Okay, now you come to the standard parts parameter. The mass. This is how much the engine weighs. It has the default drag model. So that's not surprising. You can change it if you have different drag models installed. It's a minimum drag and a maximum drag. That's not really important, but if you want to decrease your drag and you don't have Ferrum Aerospace Research, you can change the numbers here and this will reduce its drag. Angular drag if it's into the wind stream sideways. If you want to have it higher or lower, change this number here. Crash tolerance is how sturdy the part is. Say you want a ridiculously sturdy engine, put it up to 70. And max temperature, which determines how hot the engine can become before it overheats. The staging icon, if you want to have a different staging icon, go ahead for all means. Okay. This is all the preliminary stuff up here. If you clone engines, you have to play around up here so that you, for example, call this one 4.1. If this is liquid engine 4 called, if this is the name it will search in the squad folders to load the engine you have. So far so good. Now we come to the module section. This is the engine module. It's, as it states here, module engines. And the thrust vector name is thrust transform. This here is important if you put in a different name here, because you have different kinds of thrust generation. It will change the engine's performance. I have never tried anything different than the normal, so I can't really say anything about that. Exhaust damage, if you don't want to have your engine damage other stuff, turn it to false. Ignition threshold means below how much resources it's going to flame out. So if I am below 0.1, I have to below 0.1 oxidizer, it's gonna flame out. Min thrust, max thrust, fairly obvious. Increase that number, you're gonna have more thrust. Increase that number, you're gonna have a higher minimum thrust, so the engine thrust never is 0. By all means, if you want to be funky and have reverse thrust, go ahead and type in -100. Okay. Heat production means how much heat the engine will generate. Put in a higher number, your engine will overheat quicker. FX offset means where in the models the exhaust animation and thrust transform and all of that is situated. And this is the propellant page here. I know I haven't yet said anything about how to edit stuff. No, I have. Propellants. If you're dissatisfied with the propellants you have, you can change them here. For example, I wanted to burn more liquid fuel. I'm going to increase the number here. And it burns more liquid fuel than oxidizer, but I don't wanna because I like leaving engines as they are. This is the atmosphere curve. This determines your engine's efficiency. And as you can see in vacuum, because 0 atmosphere is vacuum, it has an efficiency of 370. And in 1 atmosphere it's 320. If you want ridiculously efficient engine, increase the number. Okay. And the module jettison is the module that adds the fairings if you place parts underneath the engine. If you don't want fairings, by all means, delete that. Okay, this is the overheat animation for your engine. If you don't want an overheat animation, get rid of it. And this is the module alternator. This produces electric charge when the engine is running. And it has 0 electric charge and 0 electric charge in the maximum amount. Okay, now we've gotten that out of the way. No, I don't want to save anything. Okay, this was a rocket engine. Everything engines are different. You're gonna see why. Here you have the name, part, the author, assets, no definitions, FX, fairly similar, costs, propulsion, title, blah blah, attach rules. Similar attach rules. Mass is similar, drag model, blah blah. And now it comes the interesting part. This here has a braking force and a braking torque. And this means it not just is crash tolerance that determines the sturdiness of the engine, but also this. So you can increase the number here by all means. If you crash above 7 meters per second, the engine goes boom. If you increase this here, rather, if the engine, if you crash too hard and this is very high, it will always go boom because the braking and the braking force and the braking torque are still low. So you have to increase all these numbers if you want to stir the engine. Max temperature, similar. Already talked about. Okay. This here is more interesting. The other engine, well, this is very similar up to here. This says use engine response time true. Okay, we just had a recording problem, software crash. Engine response time. Engine acceleration speed is measured in seconds. So if I increase the number to 1, the engine will take 1 second from the time I change the throttle input to a higher throttle until it starts speeding up. We don't want to do that, so we're gonna revert to what we had before. Deceleration, similar. If you want a ridiculously fast responding engine, put these numbers to as close to 0 as you can, but not 0, because that causes a Kerbal Space Program freak out. I tried that, no fun. Next thing for air breathing engines, they have a velocity curve. And if you say use velocity curve true, it means it searches in the module for something called velocity curve, which is written here. And this, of course, determines how much thrust the engine produces at which speed. This is the turbojet, and it produces 56% of its maximum thrust at 0 meters per second surface speed, or airspeed. Produces 52% at 200 meters per second speed, produces 70% at 600 meters per second speed, produces 100% at 900 meters per second, 50% at 1100 meters per second, and 0 at 1215 meters per 50 meters per second. This velocity curve here is different to the stock velocity curve because I have a couple of mods installed. Next, atmosphere curve is also different. It determines what kind of things you have. Key 0 means no pressure, ridiculously low pressure. 0.6 promille, I don't know if that's the correct English word. Atmospheric density, 11% atmospheric density, 1 atmosphere. And ISPs and all that craps and stuff. Okay. This here engine has different propellants. It uses liquid fuel and intake air as propellants. Intake air weighs. It weighs 5 kilograms per unit intake air, as well as liquid fuel. And intake air is generated by air being sucked in the intakes, so it needs air to function. That's why it's an air-breathing engine. Module, animate heat. Nothing more to say, I already went about that. Module gimbal, this means your engine can gimbal. The other engine, the rocket engine, didn't have any gimbal. Increase this number, your engine gets more gimbal range. Gimbal transform, thrust transform, this means if your engine gimbals, your thrust also gimbals. If you leave that out, the FX will change, but the direction of your thrust won't. It is an alternator, produces electric charge, doesn't have electric charge. Ignore that down here. This is from a mod I installed. Okay. We went over air-breathing engines. Next is this one. This is the already edited nuclear engine. Is that... yeah, it's a turbofan engine. Let's close that. Nope, I don't want to save anything. Okay. Command sections. As you can see, name, part, author, mesh, scale, crew capacity. Because it's a command module, crew capacity is listed. Has 0 crew. Oh no, not because it's a command module, because it's a command module. I'm sorry. Nodes, cost, category, subcategory, title, description and all that blah blah, the attach rules, stack attachment, no surface attachment. You can't attach it on any surface, but surface attachment on it is allowed. Mass is 80 kilograms, 0.08 tons. Drag model is default. Minimum drag, maximum drag, angular drag, all that shenanigans. Ridiculously high impact tolerance, very sturdy. Doesn't have an as high max temperature. Does have no explosion potential, so when it explodes it does no damage. And is a probe as a vessel type. If you want to change that, by all means, type in station or something. It has a different module. The module is command. Minimum crew required 0, but the module consumes a resource, electric charge. So, in order for this probe to work, you need electric charge. It contains 10 electric charge, and it also contains the reaction wheels module, which generate torque and cause your craft to turn in space. This also consumes electric charge, 0.025, so yes. And it has the module SAS. So, whenever you tap your T key, it will act as a stabilizer and control everything. Your torque, your control surfaces, blah, and so on. So, nothing new. You don't want to consume electricity, by all means set this number to 0. You want to have a ridiculous amount of electric charge, do this. And you're gonna have a ridiculous amount of electric charge in your probes. But I don't do such things because it's cheating. But you can. Or you wanna have a ridiculous amount of torque, increase the number. Or you don't want to use electricity for torque, put it to 0. We don't want to do anything of this, so we don't want these changes to be saved. Okay. This is a crude command pod. There's a couple of stuffs written up here, but ignore that because it's behind double backslashes. So this is ignored by the game. Node attachments, cost, parts, manufacturer, blah, all that stuff. We went over that. Mass is 4 tons. Drag model is default. Angular drag, minimum drag, maximum drag, crash tolerance, temperature, blah blah. Vessel type is ship. Okay. Crew capacity is 3. And it has an internal because, yeah, it has the pod cockpit internal. Module crew, minimum crew required is 1. Resource, it has 150 electric charge. It contains an SAS, it has reaction wheels with a higher amount of torque, and they consume electric charge. I already demonstrated how to edit that. This is what you expect from command pods. So, fuel tanks. Fairly similar, name, mesh, model, scale. Nodes to attach. You have no FXs, sound FX, cost, categories, title, blah, attachment rules. This is stack attach. Stack attach is allowed. It can surface attach. Surface attach is allowed. I forgot what that number is. Okay, mass is 4. Important note, this is dry mass. So, with no fuel in it, it weighs 4. This is important. If you change that to 0, the fuel tank won't weigh 0, because fuel weight is measured differently. But that means if you have no fuel in it, it will weigh 0 tons. So this is the dry mass. Drag model type is default. Everything here you have already seen. Braking torque, braking forces and everything. Max temperatures. Note the lower max temperature. Anything attached to the big orange fuel tank, which this one is, has a tendency to overheat, because the max temperature of this part is much lower than most of the other parts, and heat will generally flow from this part into other parts than from the other parts into this part. Okay, resources. You see, resource name liquid fuel, amount 2880, max amount 2880. Increasing this number means you can transfer more fuel into this tank from outside, but upon launch, it always will contain 2880 units of liquid fuel. Increasing this number won't get you anywhere, because it is above the maximum amount, so it will cause a game crash, I believe. Same for oxidizer. It's fairly similar. So let's close that. No, we don't want to save any changes. So now we are at the struts, structural parts. Similar parts parameters, textures, specific power, increase this, it will make the part more powerful. Increase this number, will make it stick better to the parts it's attached to. Don't know what that means. Don't know what that means. Costs, category, means it's a structural part. Subcategory is not important at the moment. Name, manufacturer, description, blah blah. No stack attachment. No stack attachment allowed. No surface attachment allowed, but you can attach it to surfaces, and it does allow collision. Okay. Nodes, well, I don't know what to do with that, but the only node it can attach is here. Yeah. Mass. Weighs 0.1 tons. Drag model is default. Does have no drag, no minimum drag, and no angular drag. So drag-wise, this part is ignored by the game. Also, the physics importance of this part is minimal. You can change that for structural parts for diverse structural parts in the config file. It does have a reasonably high crash tolerance, but the braking force and braking torque are humongous. So attach these parts to anything, they won't move. The other parts, or rather they won't break here. And the linear and the angular strengths are also ginormous, so this really is a fixed strut. No wobble, no thingies. If your struts are too short, by all means, add a few zeros. Then your struts can become longer. That's it for that here. So that's done. That's a KW rocketry strut. This medium strut is the only part, aside from my heavy strut, which I have installed from KW rocketry. Everything else is kinda useless. I'm sorry, KW rocketry guy, but Squad has made better engines. Yeah. Bunch of stuff up here. Ignore it. It's behind double backslashes. Similar parts, parameters, but this is interesting here. You can make this a lot better and longer by increasing all these numbers. It doesn't have an angular break and everything, so if you want to make it stronger, increase this number. Anything aside that, fairly similar. Okay, so how do you add another mode to an engine so that it has two modes? Well, for that I'm going to have to open, where is it? The benign parts. Not that, not that. Where are you? There they are. Engine Saber S. If you edit that with the notepad editor, you're gonna see similar parts and stuff, but there's a different module. The module is called Hydra Engine Controller. Here. And it has two primary, it has two modes. An air breathing and a rocket mode. So, since the benign guy works with Kerbal Space Program, the coding for this Hydra Engine Controller module is in the stock game. So, I believe so. If not, you have to get benign aerospace and install it, and then you can do it too. So, if you want to have a secondary engine mode, language fail for you. You have to put in the Hydra Engine Controller module, which I did. So instead of the normal module, which you saw in the LBT-30 engine, the normal nuclear engine looks similar. Well, I changed it to module Hydra Engine Controller. The primary mode name is the High Efficiency mode. Secondary mode name is High Thrust mode. And to not make a liar out of myself, because what I said in the pre-recorded the pre-recorded post-commentary, that it didn't change the efficiency of the engine, I'm gonna set it back to stock efficiency, and that's it. So this module Hydra Engine Controller makes it that it basically says primary engine module is module engines, and you can insert anything of any engine with copy and paste that you like, and you have to tab it into the right part so that it suits this. So I put in the stock nuclear engine. I changed the heat production, increased it so that it looks a little bit more dramatic when it runs, but anything else is similar except for this here. To bear more semblance to reality, I added something so that it consumes nuclear fuel, which is, because it's a fission engine, as long as the engine runs, also the fission of the nuclear fuel of the engine runs, so it depletes its fuel while the engine is running. So this is why I put that as a propellant, and therefore I had to add nuclear fuel to the engine. And because I added this, I had to add it in the resource config file, and I gave it a density of 5 kilograms per unit. So this is why I had to decrease the mass of the engine to 1.75 plus a half ton is 2.25, and this is the standard mass of the nuclear engines. Okay, this is said and done. Everything except for this is stock. Okay, now comes the interesting part. The secondary engine mode. You put in this name. This is important that you have the name correctly. Where is it? That you have to put the name here, and you have to write mode. Then you have to write it here again. So this module doesn't ignore what is behind the 2 backslashes here, but searches for that. This is important to know. And of course you're not allowed to make typos. Okay. This secondary engine, well, name is module engines, thrust transform, ignition threshold, blah, it's the same. The heat production is slower. Why? Because it has a higher amount of mass, which is mass flow rate, and then hence the engine is better cooled, blah blah, and so on, and this is why the engine doesn't get so hot in reality. Because it has a higher mass flow rate, it has more thrust, so I doubled the thrust. And to balance it out, I decreased its efficiency. That's basically all I did. This mode consumes less nuclear fuel to bear resemblance to reality. Yeah. And this here is the complete module Hydra engine controller. So you have to replace the normal module engines with your module Hydra engine controller and put the 2 engine modes in, and that's it. And after that, there's fairly similar things. I left everything here the same. So it still is the stock nuclear engine. It has a different engine mode. So effectively I created 2-in-1 engine. Yeah, that's it. We're going to save this one. We're going to close this one. And you're going to see this is the Sabre engine, the normal stock Sabre engine. Not really anything abnormal. Heat production, blah, and everything. Yeah. So that's it. How do you add resources to the game? You might ask. How did I make it so that the game displays my resources? Well, that's easy. Once you know how. You go into the squad directory again, and there's this handy resources folder. Open it, and there's a resources generic.config. And you get a load of resources. I basically added this here. This nuclear fuel resource behaves similar to solid fuel. You cannot transfer it. It doesn't flow in a stack. It has the same density. No, it has the same density as, for example, intake air or oxidizer. And it's got nuclear fuel. So if you want to edit anything, by all means do that. This is I did in comparison of some kind of funky engine I wanted to make for this tutorial, but trying to create the engine took 1.5 hours, and it always failed. But this here is called gigajoules of energy, and I wanted to make a gamma ray propulsion system. Density and all and everything. And in actuality, this density here is the density of energy. Oops, I forgot 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3. Energy basically weighs 1 gigajoule of energy weighs about 100 millionth of a kilogram. So it weighs a ridiculously low amount. And of course the engine would have consumed ridiculous amounts of energy, and I would have to make a few parts and blah and everything, and it took too much time simply. So I said, after 1 hour of engine editing and failing, screw that, I'm going to show you the nuclear engine, and I'm going to show you how it looks in everything in the game and how it will behave. So therefore we're gonna make a quick save. Are we going to? Nope. I'm going to start the game, and we're gonna see us in game. So here we are again. I'm I'm going to go into my normal folder. So we're going to resume the saved. And this time we're not going to go into the Let's Play. We're going in here. Oh yeah, notice this here, up here, I actually had to install the laser system to make this engine that I tried and make to get it to work, and I didn't uninstall it again. So now we're in the VAB, and I stopped recording after I went in the spacepan hangar because I realized my ineptitude. Let's make a simple craft. Light command pod. Oh yeah, I didn't show you how you edit a parachute to be more efficient. But if you see the numbers here, you're gonna see how you're gonna have to do it. So if you want to open it earlier, you're gonna have to make a low minimum air pressure. You want to have a high deployment altitude, put it up. You want to increase its drag or its semi-deployed drag or anything and play around with that. Open the config file and play around with all these parameters. It's fairly easy. I have to say Kerbal Space Program is the most easily customizable game, but if you want to create modded content, it's not that easy. So I'm not really a modder, I have to say. I'm more of a calculator, an editor. Propulsion. Where are your eyes, my friend? Why is that long? There it is. We basically looked at this part here as a fuel tank. Here you see the dry mass, 4 tons, total mass 36 tons. So, yeah. Let's bring this one here up a snot. Little. And here's the nuclear engine. Here you can see resources: nuclear fuel 100, the dry mass is 1.75 tons, total mass is 2.25 tons. Everything is correctly done and wired and blah. What I did is I decreased its vacuum, its sea level ISP, because in reality, if you run it in high efficiency mode, and the atomic engine sea level ISP is ridiculously low. Again, more resemblance to reality. I like to be more realistic with my games. This is why I've also installed Ferrum Aerospace Research. We should probably, add some flaps to counter our center of drag problem. I know, good idea. Let's make 4 of these, and I'm gonna get back to you once I finish their wings. Okay, I've reshaped the parts. Now let's add a few control surfaces so that our rockets fly stable, and then we're clear to blast off. 1 meter. Let's see the size of this thing. Is 1 meter control surface enough? Did I butch? No, I didn't. Okay, that looks much better. So attach that, play around with it. Looks fairly good. So this is our test craft. I still haven't managed to figure out how to record sound and micro at the same time. So you still have no game sound, I apologize. But I hope that's not a problem for this tutorial. Save that. We'll see a setup. So we're back. I added a few struts. No, not struts. A few... how are these things called? Launch stability enhancers. Yes. Control surfaces work. Beautiful. So this is the new AI or UI. You see, current engine mode, high efficiency mode. That's a boo-boo for atmospheric flight. So let's turn it to high thrust mode. I haven't set it up for action group because why should I? Switch engine mode. Activate engine, disable engine, free and lock gimbal. Yeah. Anything new? Question mark? I don't think so. Let's hope this works. So we have a blast off now. This rocket flies stable, I'm surprised. Your overall piece, display your resources. And here you see the nuclear fuel resource. And it slowly but surely depletes. This uses, right now, not much. But it uses a considerable bit of nuclear fuel in the flight. Like I don't know where I set it. I basically set it so per 10,000 liquid fuel and oxidizer units, so per 20,000 fuel units burned, it depletes 1 nuclear fuel unit. We're up high enough. Let's switch the engine mode so that we don't waste fuel. Where's our efficiency? Boom, put it up again. Let's start our gravity turn. We should be able to switch engine mode now. Yeah. Ooh. Keep stable. Be a nice craft. Yeah, you see it works. You can switch. You can go ahead. When I switch the mode, it has a higher thrust. So, by all means, I've showed you how to edit stuff. I think this thing even has enough delta V to get into orbit. Yeah. In reality, I don't want to come to you with reality or stuff. Let's see. How's our curve? Alright. Dang it, our apoapsis is too low. We have to switch the engine mode again. Huh? Let's hope we get into orbit. Nuclear engines are ridiculously efficient. Yeah, that should be enough. In reality, you of course wouldn't just use a nuclear engine. Well, simply because A, it produces radioactive exhaust, and B, in reality, nuclear engines burn liquid hydrogen, which has a ridiculously low density. So for having 4 tons of fuel, I would be required to make take a tank the size of an orange fuel tank and carry it with me. So the advantage is nuclear engines are ridiculously efficient in reality. Disadvantage, they are pain in the ass to handle. Let's cut the engine, produce radioactive waste, turn that thing on, disable the SAS, and let's coast down. See you once we get considerably lower. So we have parachute deployment, which would be ridiculous to deploy a parachute at 900 meters a second, but it's a game. So, and it's a tutorial mission, and I don't care. In reality, I would make it different. So, or if I would play in my Let's Play folder, since I, want to have it realistic. So let's time accelerate down, and hope for a safe landing. Our hero Jebediah Kerman. Yeah, that's it for editing config files, blah and stuff. I don't really have more to say, per se. We're close to deployment altitude. My name's Plains Kerman. I'm a chief engineer, head of piloting. Today I showed you how to tweak stuff. Have a good day. Oh, and PS, this is probably going to be uploaded after I upload my tutorial, how to make rockets. In the next episode of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program, I don't know how good my schedule is, but probably is next Friday. Because it takes me a very long time to make it. I have invested around 20 hours into this episode already, and I have not managed to get it today. I'm sorry, guys and girls.